Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to episode number 69 of Paul Heyman's TNA. Well, it's not really related to our company. There was one news story this week that we simply couldn't start without addressing. Like I say, it's not really going to change anything for us, but being such a monumental thing, we couldn't just skip over it. With that said, let's now go into Impact and Evolve, the go-home week towards that huge weekend that we have, the ROH anniversary show on Saturday, followed by Against All Odds. And we begin with a recap of last week's show as the Kings of Wrestling defeated Kurt Angle and Roderick Strong in a match which featured all four of the company's male champions. Following the match, when the Kings both placed boots across the chest of Roderick Strong, Kurt Angle flipped. The disrespect that the New Age continued to show just becoming too much for him. He pushed Chris Hero before headbutting Claudio Castagnoli. Kurt then went nose to nose with Chris Hero. Eventually, Hero backed down, but he had no problem accepting Kurt's challenge for tonight. The commentators confirmed that that match will open the show. Given the performances both men have been putting in, it should really be the main event, but I've got another big match planned, so I thought we'd open with this and hopefully get the fans buzzing for what will be an excellent night of action. Obviously not as good as I would have expected because they don't click. That is now two members of the New Age that Kurt doesn't click with, because Tyler Black in last month's pay-per-view, we got the same note. It's a good match, don't get me wrong. You would hope that these two, who've been getting in the 90s for their individual performances, could have produced at least a mid to high 80s match. Fantastic heat and great wrestling, and it goes to a 20-minute time limit draw when Kurt Angle has Chris Hero in an ankle lock. It doesn't look like Hero has anywhere to go with the ankle and leg grapevine. The bell goes, Kurt Angle releases the hold. He's not really sure whether it's because Chris has tapped without him hearing. Exhausted from the match, Kurt remains on the ground, releases the grip, and he's just lying there, showing that he has been taken to his limits by Chris Hero just 3 nights before the toughest challenge of his championship reign. Before he can return to his feet, Claudio Castagnoli enters the ring, looking for revenge for last week's headbutt, laying boots into the World Heavyweight Champion. Castagnoli helps Hero to his feet. While it's clear that Hero's ankle is seriously hurt, they continue the attack. As it goes on, however, the Motor City Machine Guns run down to the ring, running off the half-injured World Tag Team Champions. A little bit of a reverse situation from the previous match between the two. It looks like Chris Hero may not be 100%. While they're backing off tonight, the Kings of Wrestling will have to face Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin this Sunday as the former champions take their rematch Against All Odds. It was a pretty decisive victory for Hero and Castagnoli last time, but Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, back to 100%, will expect to put up more of a fight. Doug Williams is then interviewed before the second match of the night, and he speaks about his time away from TNA. Williams says that he's been back at home in the United Kingdom, but he's been watching Impact every single week. And he's been watching Evolve, and he's heard about this reputation from the X Division champion as the hardest working man in professional wrestling. That's fine in Doug Williams' mind, because he is the smartest working man in this business today, so it doesn't matter who's working harder. On Sunday, he is going to prove that, and it won't be your typical X Division match with your flips and your high flying, but Doug Williams is simply going to out-wrestle Roderick Strong, grind him down, and take the championship from the captain of Team USA. Not that there's much of a patriotic edge to this, but Doug Williams, being from the UK, leaning into the fact that the gold medal was won by Team USA in the World X Cup. Roderick Strong then picks up a decisive, quite dominant victory over Yoshihito with a half Nelson backbreaker. A good victory for him going into that title defense, and a decent performance. He's needed that after a couple of big losses in recent weeks. Yoshihito with an okay performance. But after the match, we get some further development with the Young Bucks and Roderick Strong. Nick and Matt coming to the top of the ramp with microphones and saying they know that Roderick has the pay-per-view to focus on, but they've got something to say to him, so he'd better listen. Last week on Evolve, they told everybody that they're not Generation Me anymore, they're the Young Bucks. And that's because for too long they've tried to be something that they're not. They've tried to be people pleasers. They've kept their heads down, they've took on board every piece of advice that they've been given, but as of right now, they have heard enough. It took them long enough to realise this themselves, but since they walked out on Strong 2 weeks ago, they've learned that there's somebody else on their wavelength in TNA. Strong isn't going to like it, so they thought he should be the first to know. They happily introduce him to their new representative, Larry Sweeney. He walks out from the back, a huge smile on his face. The Young Bucks leaving with Sweeney. No more information on their partnership. A huge betrayal. Roderick Strong has had a lot of issues with Larry Sweeney, just like he has with the New Age in recent months, and to see his former partners go off with Larry Sweeney is going to be another kick in the teeth just 3 nights before he has to defend his X Division Championship. A lot going on for Roderick Strong at the minute, but his priority has to remain with retaining the X Division Championship. We then get a sit-down interview with Mike Tenay speaking to Samoa Joe in order to discuss his match with Kevin Steen this Sunday at Against All Odds. While his priority has to be TNA, he has another opportunity this Saturday when he walks into Ring of Honor's 9th anniversary show. As the longest reigning champion in company history, he has been selected as the challenger for the ROH World Heavyweight Championship, and that means that while he will walk into Against All Odds far from 100%, he could also walk in with the championship of the company that fired Kevin Steen a couple of months ago. That title was always something Steen dreamed of holding, so Joe knows that it will hurt Steen more than anything to see him walk down the aisle with that championship over his shoulder. We're not saying here that Joe's taking this match as a foregone conclusion, but he's saying that if he can walk into Against All Odds with the Ring of Honor World Championship, Steen has only been here for a couple of months, but Samoa Joe knows him very, very well. They've fought before, but never on this stage. Joe doing a masterful job when improvising, gaining heat to their storyline. Of course, that's good to see. And Kevin Steen will be in action later tonight. We then get the third match of the night. This is kind of the bookend to the ongoing rivalry between these two teams. They've each been on the winning side in matches between them in the past. Before Hamada and Taylor Wilde take their Knockouts Tag Team Championship opportunity this Sunday, we wanted to draw a line under this rivalry, and we do that with them picking up a victory. The New Age may be the more established duo, but we've seen a great chemistry from Hamada and Taylor Wilde, and that's enough for them to secure the victory. Taylor Wilde pinning Alyssa Flash with a German suplex. 4 decent performances despite Taylor being off her game, and it was a good match overall. In a reverse of last week, Mickie James and Tara come to the ring as Hamada and Taylor Wilde stand tall. The Knockouts Tag Team Champions make it clear that they are very impressed with the performance of Hamada and Taylor Wilde ahead of their match this Sunday at Against All Odds. Impact's second hour begins with a segment in the back. Mr. Anderson seen to approach AJ Styles, both men improvising well as they talk about their match in tonight's main event. Mr. Anderson says that he understands it's the big match for Impact tonight, but with a match on Sunday, he thinks that maybe they should take it easy. Treat tonight as a warm-up and exhibition match, but not go hell for leather. AJ Styles is taken aback and asks how Anderson thinks the fans in the building would feel about them doing that tonight. Anderson laughs, saying that nobody really cares about the fans, do they? AJ Styles doesn't laugh and says that this whole attitude is why Anderson will never be the World Heavyweight Champion in this company. We then get Kevin Steen squashing Shark Boy in 3 minutes, finishing him off with a package pile driver. Not really a very good match. With Steen being a new face, we do need to build him up, and a squash match is how we do that. The downside being that we do get those lower segments and cool the crowd, unfortunately. Hopefully he can get him back up with his post-match promo, which, again, considering that Steen isn't the most over, that's a really good performance. Better than Samoa Joe's interview earlier, for instance. He demands a microphone from ringside, and Kevin Steen talks about his match this Sunday with Samoa Joe. He recaps the challenge Joe made when he said he was willing to wait until the pay-per-view to kick Kevin Steen's ass. Steen laughs at this idea and says that Samoa Joe might be ready for a fight, but he's not ready for a fight with Kevin Steen. He adds that he's been watching Samoa Joe build his reputation in TNA for many, many years, and he knows that while Samoa Joe has taken defeats before, they're going to be nothing like what Steen is ready to deliver Against All Odds. So a straightforward promo from Kevin Steen. We've not seen that much of him. He's had a match with Charlie Haas, he's had a match with Shark Boy, but the personal edge to this match, we're going to see a fight from Kevin Steen from the first time in his TNA career, and he's promising that it is going to be very, very dismal for Samoa Joe. We then get a pre-recorded segment with Bryan Danielson taking a break from a workout to speak to the TNA cameras. Bryan Danielson talks about competing in 2 matches in 24 hours over the coming weekend, but says that this isn't new for him. There's been a lot of hype about people doing double duty this weekend, but speaking from his Ring of Honor days and his time on the independents, he says that working multiple matches every weekend was how he's always made ends meet. He can't wait for Saturday night to be in front of that Ring of Honor crowd one more time. As for Sunday, he doesn't know what to expect from Desmond Wolfe by his side. So while it may be a tag team match, he's going to have his eyes on all three men in that match. A decent segment from Bryan Danielson. We know that at this time he probably hadn't fully fleshed out his character, so while he did have some good content to his promo, they weren't always his strong point, and that's something else that we're going to try and develop as much as we can with him coming up in the TNA roster. We then get a very good match in terms of the names involved. It's only a decent match, but two decent, again, individual performances. Happy with the 64 from Sara Del Rey, and she defeats Tara with a 59 in 12 minutes and 11 with that Royal Butterfly. And the idea here is that with the question marks over whether Tara is still able to compete at that top level, we still have question marks, I suppose, after this match, because while she does have a competitive match and comes close on a number of occasions, Sara Del Rey still does have just too much for her, and as she is joined by Alyssa Flash and Mischief in the ring, the commentators promote the Knockouts Championship match this Sunday as Sara Del Rey defends her title against Awesome Kong in a tables match. Coming out from the back, the challenger clears the ring of Alyssa Flash and Mischief, throwing them to the outside. She's not interested in them. She's interested in Sara Del Rey. Awesome Kong going face to face with the Knockouts champion. SDR looking pretty concerned and intimidated by the presence of Awesome Kong. This is a different Kong that we've seen since she's returned. More furious, more focused, and more ready to take that championship. This is something we haven't seen from Del Rey since she came to TNA. The commentators are certain that she has never been more worried about her championship reign than she is right now, going into Against All Odds. Going to the back again, Kazarian Daniels are interviewed by SoCal Val, partly a response to Bryan Danielson's words earlier and partly just to promote that match. Christopher Daniels says that Bryan is right to be suspicious of Desmond Wolfe. Kazarian and Daniels worked with him at various points over the last 12 months, but there was a reason that they never considered him a friend. That man is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Daniels then turns to his fellow forefathers. He's impressed with his pun and they don't really react to it initially, but once he points it out, they laugh too, everybody finding it so hilarious. Frankie Kazarian says that the difference is obvious and will be all the more clear Against All Odds. However, on Saturday, at ROH's 9th anniversary show, Daniels has asked that they don't come to ringside because he has something to prove alone. While we then turn attention to the main event, Paul Heyman briefly joins commentary in order to put over the weekend of wrestling that is coming up. He talks about the insane travel schedule that some of the wrestlers will have to take on in order to compete on the two huge cards in the space of 24 hours, but that shows the character of the guys and girls in the back. That is a credit to the locker room. They will stop at nothing to give fans the incredible professional wrestling they deserve. Against All Odds will be another fine example of what TNA does, but with ROH's 9th anniversary show, it is going to be a massive weekend for plenty of our roster. He then promotes the card for Against All Odds. I won't go through it individually, but I'll put it all on the screen, and of course at the end of the episode we'll put it on screen once again. I think that's another really solid card that we've put together, and Destination X, I'm looking forward to that as well. But we go into a decent main event. I would have hoped these two could have done better. They're 2/4 of that big pay-per-view main event, and we know that Kurt and Tyler don't work that well together. Hopefully when all four of them are against each other, it does create something really good. Anderson off his game, probably why it didn't get into the 80s, and he is defeated. Fantastic heat and great wrestling though. AJ Styles sets up for the phenomenal forearm, but Anderson can catch him, going for the mic drop. However, with Tyler Black at ringside, he comes out maybe halfway through the match to scout the two men. He stood at the top of the ramp. Anderson points to Tyler Black, telling him that he's going to do this to him as well on Sunday, and that backfires as AJ Styles is able to roll out and roll up Mr. Anderson, picking up the victory in the main event. Anderson taking his eye off the ball as he looked to send a message to Tyler Black. Following the defeat from out of nowhere though, he is straight back up on his feet. Anderson is furious but aware that he can't lay a hand on AJ Styles now that the match is over. During the match it was fair game, but as soon as the bell rung, that no contact clause comes back into play. At the top of the ramp, Tyler Black watches on. He has a smirk on his face. He is delighted to know that his presence alone had an influence on the outcome. He didn't get physically involved, but by taking Anderson's eye off the ball, he has cost him. Not that he'll be happy to see AJ Styles pick up a win. He doesn't get long to enjoy his handiwork, however, as Kurt Angle comes out from the back and goes face to face with one of his three challengers. So it's Kurt and Black at the top of the ramp. Anderson and AJ in the ring, and none of them can touch each other. The commentators put over that no contact rule as they exchange words and nothing else ahead of their upcoming match at this Sunday's pay-per-view. The longest reigning TNA World Heavyweight Champion in history, Kurt Angle will unquestionably face the toughest challenge of his run with a title this Sunday as he defends against AJ Styles, Mr. Anderson and Tyler Black at Against All Odds. That is a much better segment to end the show. Really happy with that. Should hopefully turn the... It's a 78. I was hoping that would lift us into the 80s. Not too bad of a show though, increasing our popularity in 16 regions. And we'll go now into the 8th episode of TNA Evolve, which began with Amazing Red and Hernandez defeating Shawn Spears and Tyson Dukes. The reason it's not Homicide is because this show will air on the same night as ROH's 9th anniversary show, so I thought it'd be a bit odd to have him wrestling on an Evolve show and then being on the ROH show as well. Team Canada continuing to struggle. Paul Heyman comes to the ring to promote this huge weekend for TNA. Mr. Anderson cuts him off to talk crap and just put himself over. He thinks that he's going to be leaving Against All Odds as the World Heavyweight Champion, and he doesn't give a damn about this ROH show. Back-to-back promos then air from Kevin Steen and Samoa Joe. These are both pre-recorded, and they're talking about their match at Against All Odds. Austin Creed then picks up a surprise victory over Kazuchika Okada, who with 5 straight defeats in 2010 is on a little bit of a losing streak. Austin Creed celebrates as the commentators ask that very same question. Are we seeing Okada fall off the rails a little bit here? We then get another pre-recorded promo. Final promotion for Against All Odds from all 4 World Heavyweight Championship contenders. Mickie James then defeats Angelina Love, the first time the Knockouts have main evented an Evolve show, and it's a good match overall. Mickie James celebrates in the ring to end TNA Evolve. It was a bit of a strange one to book with the ROH show almost airing simultaneously, but it's a decent rating overall. I'm happy with a 74. And I think overall it's been a good week. Thank you for watching, and hopefully these 2 cards that we're going to see on the screen now are enough to bring you back for the next episodes as we continue to book TNA in this post-Vince McMahon world.